What can Pat Shurmur do for Odell Beckham? Was David Carr's down year simply because of his bad back? And which Packers running back is the one to get in February drafts? Plus, the 2017 Football Guys Players Championship fourth-place finisher Richard Mallon joins us to discuss best ball strategy, his most important lesson he learned in his first year in the FFPC, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Richard Mallon is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour.
Broadcast live and heard around the world. You are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Gerzakinetics. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and tonight I want to bring in our guest right away. He is a five-time R-League champion, a wearer of no badges, the second-place finisher in a two-man beauty contest, and the fourth-place finisher, an $11,000 winner in the 2017 Football Guys Players Championship. Please welcome Richard Mallon. Thanks for coming on the show this week, Rich. We really appreciate it.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. I've been playing fantasy football for over 30 years. Back in the day when you had to use the USA Today to find the scores on Monday and Tuesday. It's nice to be talking
the USA Today.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you this, the USA Today was like the go-to for, like, I can't tell you how many people have come on this show and, you know, they've been playing 20, 30 years or whatever it is. That was like the go-to newspaper for fantasy stats. It was always the USA Today. And honestly, I kind of remember, I remember it a little bit, but I am a little bit younger. So I'm kind of was more in the internet age of where they did the stats for it. I had to do the stats for my first leagues that I was running in high school, and it was a pain, man. I know what you mean.
Yeah, the USA Today was great. It was only where you didn't know if you won after Sunday's games and Monday night game. So you had to get the USA Today. And actually, like Wednesday, they had a big spread. It was basically like a little fantasy football magazine. Those were the times. Now everybody's got the information.
Yeah, that is totally true. There's a wealth of it out there. We're going to bring some information to the listeners on the show tonight. We're going to talk about what the Bengals offense could look like next season, how David Johnson should fit into your 2018 draft strategy, and much more. There's a lot more to get to on the show tonight. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you all might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can do so. The show is at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Dave is at David Gerzak, and Rich, you can find him on Twitter at Mallontown. You can also post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF Hour. If you want to give us a call and talk with us tonight, feel free to do so. 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. You can also email the show at the inbox, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them. We'll get to all the chat room questions, tweets, and emails in the fantasy feedback segment later on in the show. I want to bring up one quick thing before we start talking to Rich and pick his brain, talk about how great his 2017 season was. If you are looking to jump in to the Dynasty high-stakes fantasy football space, there are a ton of orphan teams, still probably about 2 or 3 dozen of them left, at myffpc.com/dynasty. Check that out. All the players, all the picks listed, as well as a suggested offer. You can make that offer. You can come in lower on that if you want to, make an offer on some of these orphan teams. We will not be starting any more maiden dynasty drafts until all these orphans are taken. I don't think there's too many $77 and $250 teams out there, but there's some 500s, some 750s, some 1250s, some 2500s, and the discounts are steep. So check those out at myffpc.com/dynasty. Rich, it's been a pleasure having you on tonight. Let's actually talk some fantasy football here when you are not winning $11,000 in the Football Guys Players Championship. Tell us what you're doing for a living.
Oh, okay. I'm a Philadelphia Local 13 Boilermaker and entrepreneur, and I do some squatching.
I'm sorry, some what?
Some squatching.
Some squatching. Okay, so this is actually
a lucrative gig
for you to.
You go out in the wildlands and you're looking for evidence of skunk apes and swamp apes and maybe some hairy boogers. But layman's terms, layman's term, that would be your Bigfoot and your Sasquatch.
Yeah, what's do you have what was the most exciting thing that happened to you when you're out squatching?
When I'm out squatching, the most exciting thing was I'm in Pennsylvania. I know that, in Wisconsin they don't have as many because of the cold. But in Pennsylvania, there's a lot of open wooded areas there. And the most exciting thing was we were going squatching, and we saw all these, bald people. And we said, they can't be squatches. And we almost walked into a camp with skinheads. So you got to be careful when you're squatching.
Well, listen, if I ever get to Pennsylvania and I'm going to go out and do some squatching, then I am looking you up and making sure you are right by my side for doing that. I don't want to get into anything I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, that's great. If you do go by yourself, though, once you see the Trump signs, that's the danger area.
I got it. I'll make a mental note of that. I want to talk about your football guys players championship team. You had a bunch of them, including one that went undefeated in the regular season. But the one I want to talk to you about was the one that took fourth place overall in the FPC. You cashed $11,000 for that particular achievement, and a trio of big-time stars this past year headlined this team. You had DeAndre Hopkins on it. You had Todd Gurley and Kareem Hunt in the backfield. I'm curious, with all the teams that you had this year, did you own a lot of those three guys this past season? And if so, or if you own a significant amount of them, what was, as far as their ADP goes, as far as what you had to sink into drafts to get them, what made them so attractive relative to the guys that were going around them in drafts this year?
Okay. What I do is I look at undervalued players. And the way you get the undervalued players, if a player had a bad year last year, right, but they're still pretty young and they have a history of good years before that, you might be able to grab some of them. It all depends on the draft. Like Hopkins and Gurley, I was able to grab in second and third round over and over again. And when I picked them, it wasn't like late picks like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It was usually around, if I had the second, third, or fourth pick in the draft, I could come back and grab both of those guys on a lot of teams, and that's what I did.
And I'm curious too, because let's specifically Todd Gurley. We've talked on this show about certain running backs going to new offenses, new teams. Now that didn't really happen to Gurley, but he did get a new head coach, a new offense with the Rams this past year as Sean McVay, and he was coming off a down year. Now you said you're getting Gurley a lot in that third round area. Why? I mean, what was it? Just the fact that he was a young guy coming off a bad year that you're like, okay, look, this guy's too bad to be this bad again, or too good to be this bad again. He's getting for a massive 2017.
Yeah, definitely. He was too good. I had him on some teams in the first year. I didn't get him many in the second year because he went so high. But Gurley, he's a talent running back. And Hopkins, very talented. Like Gurley, bad coach, second year. Hopkins, bad quarterback. I figured Winston, he couldn't go. He couldn't be worse than what they had. And I just look at they're supremely talented people just in a bad situation for the 1 year. And people push them down. They really take too much of what happened last year and apply that the exact same thing's going to happen this year.
Rich, take us through Week 16, those Sunday and Monday games, that Monday night game, that Raiders-Eagles game. Your team was fighting for the $250K, right up at the top of the leaderboard of more than 7,000 teams. I'm curious how you spent that Sunday, how you spent that Monday night watching your team.
Yeah, I do the same thing I do every Sunday because I play a lot of daily too. I'm watching the games. I had a better chance before the final week, and the teams dropped off a little bit. The team that came in fourth, I had Devontae Adams on, and he got injured, so my backup was Sanders, and he was injured, so I had to play Richardson. So I was like, this team, when you get that far and you're going against so many people, you're thinking, all right, it'd be really hard for this team to win it all, based on looking at the teams ahead of you and seeing they have some similar players. And I also had Roethlisberger, which he took a little hit with Brown being out. So I'm looking at it. I'm thinking I got a chance to finish top 10. I really didn't think I'd win the whole thing, and I had a second team. The second team, Dolphin Tail, it came in top 30, and I thought I had a real good shot with that team too, and I figured they got a top chance for top 15, but they had that team had Jeffries on it. I took a big goose egg, but I really can't complain because the other teams behind me. For my team that came in fourth, the badges, we don't need no stinking badges. A lot of teams behind me had one player left on that Monday night, and they either had Crabtree or Jenkins. And both of them took the big zeros, so in the end it helped out, and I ended up holding on to fourth place.
Yeah, that had to be pretty awesome. It's just that was so surreal watching that game. You're talking about this with Greg Zwickel, who won the FFPC main event a couple of weeks ago on the show, and he just said how bizarre it was, seeing this game with, two, you'd say like upper echelon offenses at least. That Oakland had the talent. Certainly, the output didn't match up with what we expected this season. But guys like Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper, Alshon Jeffrey, and I know the wind had a significant role in it. But there was a couple of plays in that Raiders-Eagles game could have shifted the fantasy season for a lot of people, and the ball just bounced a different way, as it is wont to do in the NFL. Rich, you really went hard in your first year playing in the FFPC as you joined a bunch of different leagues with formats that were different. With one season under your belt in the Fantasy Football Players Championship, what was the most important lesson you learned competing at this level and dealing with the tight end premium scoring, the double flex? What was the most important thing you learned?
Well, I was a rookie in the league, but I'm like a 30-year-old playing rookie, playing for 30 years.
Right. Yep.
So, well,
yeah.
But the most important lesson I learned is play less. You guys might not like that answer, but it takes a lot of time if you want to. If you want to do well, it does. It takes you a lot of time. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably trade in a lot of them $350 teams for your $1,800 teams, and play less total teams, maybe not less total dollars. So on your side, it will still be good. I might also rethink when I do some drafts about my I don't take a second quarterback a lot of times, and I might rethink that because no one was drafting Wentz, and nobody was drafting Watson or Goff, and usually in a draft, it's a 12-team draft. Usually around 20 quarterbacks are taken. So there's usually 3 or 4 teams that only go one quarterback, and I go one quarterback a lot. But if you did, I might change my thinking just because if you did go, and I usually go quarterback late, so I'll wait till 10, 11 teams are taking their quarterback before I grab a quarterback. And with my using that strategy, it probably makes more sense that I do take a second quarterback like in the 19th and 20th round. And like I said, if you did do that, you could have had a really good shot because Wentz and Goff, they weren't drafted. Deshaun Watson wasn't drafted. And in fact, Wentz, I think, ended up third in points per game. And Deshaun Watson was just like crazy. He was like either second or first in points per game. And Goff was very respectable at 9 in points per game.
That's interesting because I think a lot of people will, especially the zero RB people, will always, draft those receivers and get a tight end early and then sort of, pound those running backs in the mid rounds, just trying to latch on to like a Kareem Hunt or an Alvin Kamara, guys that really came through being drafted at that level. And that's something that you can actually replicate in the second half of your draft. If you do wait on quarterback to even, round 12, round 13 or whatever it is, you could have got Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson. You could have got Carson Wentz and Jared Goff or Goff and Watson. There's so many other quarterbacks that went low that finished as top 10 options this year that it made a lot of sense to take those, throw those darts at quarterbacks in the second half of drafts too. That's something that I think is not talked about a lot. That's a good point that you bring up. And this leads into my next question, Rich, because you mentioned you had a lot of teams and it was a lot of work. Were you getting any help managing these teams as far as lineup setting, as far as bidding on free agents on the waiver wires? What was Wednesday night? What was Sunday morning like for you?
Sundays are always busy. So I go camping on the weekends, and since it's so close to the house, the campground I go to, I usually tell her I'll see you after the first game starts, because I leave my wife up there and I drive back home, because you really have to be in front of the computer to make your changes, right? And not just in your leagues, but in all the different leagues that you can play on. And if you get a late second, guys out, you got to be ready to make changes. But as to your question, it's probably easy as fixing a garage door opener. I never get any help from anybody. If I like them, I draft them. If that's the way I go with that. It's all me.
Well, okay. Well, and let's talk about these drafts too, because you did so many of them. Were you ever concerned about when you were making doing a draft and you're taking a guy in the 3rd round, 4th round, 7th round, 8th round, you're like, wow, I've gotten a lot of this guy this year. If he goes down, my teams are going to be in trouble. Was there any concern with you with that, or did you not mind grabbing up a lot of guys, in a bunch of your leagues, guys like Todd Gurley, Hopkins, Kareem Hunt? I would assume that you would have loved to have on as many teams as possible this year. What's sort of your philosophy when you're doing this many teams?
Well, my philosophy is I just go by what I think is the best player, and if I end up with a lot of them, I end up with a lot of them. I don't really do that. It's sort of like insurance, where you're insuring against yourself for a bad pick. But I might do that with kickers after I had some problems in the beginning of the season, having a kicker that was on a bye because of the hurricane, or maybe a kicker gets cut or something. So I might do that this year. I learned that lesson.
I think you don't really look back on, because you got to trust, you got to get your guys, which I've always said on this show. You got to trust in your pre-draft analysis. You have to believe in the guys that you're taking. And if you believe in Todd Gurley in 1 or 2 drafts, well, why not believe in him in 12? If DeAndre Hopkins is good enough to make 4 teams for you, why can't he make 8 teams? It's just if you have the belief in these guys, I don't think there's anything wrong with loading up on them. And obviously, you can't really predict injuries. That's just something you deal with. But anybody who drafted the 3 guys we talked about the most so far tonight was certainly happy with how their 2017 ended up. As far as 2018 goes, best ball season, the 28-round draft expert leagues that we have, it's just around the corner. We'll be starting stuff up with the FFPC probably like the week after the Super Bowl, somewhere in that neighborhood. And Rich, do you envision yourself making any tweaks or changes to your draft philosophy in that specific format where there are no waivers through the season, and whatever you draft, you get? Is there any changes that you plan on making after what you saw in the 2017 season?
Well, the things I would do is I would definitely go 3 quarterbacks, and definitely I would vary the kickers, like I was saying before. I try when I do the draft, the best balls, and I like that format. That's a really nice format where you don't have to touch it. So you draft it, you're done with it, and you find out how you did. I think what you need to try to find the players that have a high variability. You need players that are going to bust out 1 week with 5 catches for 150 yards and a touchdown, instead of getting guys like maybe like Frank Gore, who gets 20 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown every 3 weeks or something. But as far as changes, not too much changes. I still go in there. I try to get in there early, draft early. That's an important thing. That way you could get the Kareem Hunts. You could get the players that are rookies or second-year players, and you can load up your team in the 12. I was getting Hunt in like 14th round. So if you draft early, the later you draft, it happens like Hunt's 14, and then the next 2 weeks later he's 12. 2 weeks later he's 11, then he's 10. As as it gets closer and closer, you're losing opportunities to get those players at a lower price. So that's how I handle it.
And waiting on those, you know, not only, okay, what you just said makes perfect sense, and I totally agree. But not only is that true, when you move through draft season and you get later and later into it, there's more information out there, and you have everybody pretty much has access to it. And so, like, there's, you know, when you talk about the main event in Vegas that we put on every year, there's no sleepers there anymore. I mean, like, everybody, there's reaches more than there's sleepers, you know. So the sleepers take place, you know, before the NFL draft or in the early part of the summer, you know. And once August rolls around, man, there's so many people that are dialed in. It's really tough to find those high variant players. Rich, I want to ask you to follow up on that. The strategy that you mentioned of looking for these high ceiling players that you can get in the mid rounds, do you find yourself going safer in the first few rounds to try to lock up these studs that, you know, unless they suffer a catastrophic injury, they're going to be awesome, and you pretty much know they're awesome? Or do you not mind taking some risks in the first few rounds as well?
Well, usually I'd say the first 3 rounds are pretty much set. You know, guy might go end of the second in one and early in the third, the same guy in another one. But there's not too much variance. Once you get past the first 3 or 4 rounds, then you have a lot more variance and a lot more choices, and a lot of the people are, you know, if you look on the sites, they're within 1, 2, 3 points of each other, and you can make a lot of differences. What I usually do in them, I've never went quarterback. I've always waited on quarterback. In them, sometimes you have to go a little bit early because people are grabbing them, and so if you grab 1 or 2, you know, if I don't mind getting, you know, the 10th and the 14th guy. And like I said, this year I'm definitely going to be throwing in some of them 27th, 28th round guys as a third quarterback if they're still available. A lot of times they're not, though. Sometimes they're all gone. So yeah, I don't really, you know, I don't think there's any neat reason to like try to jump people on players, like grab a prior in the 4th round, see what happens. You know what I mean? But if you take some steady guys, I think it's better, and then you take your shots in the later spots. I also this is the first time to this format. I don't grab tight ends. I mean, I see people grab tight end in the second, the third. I see them take 2 in a row before they start filling out their teams. They all want that 1.5 points. But I've always found that if I wait, I could grab a decent tight end. And not that he's going to be great or anything, although I did get lucky with some with some Ertz in like the 7th round, and some if I didn't get Ertz, I follow up with a Walker in like the 8th round or something. So in your format, I think it's beneficial to the people that don't grab the tight ends early.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of people have success. Well, Evan Engram is another guy this year who people got in the mid-rounds that were able to start him the majority of the season, and it really paid off for him. Let's get to some emails here, Rich, for you. The first one is from Don in Panama City, Florida. He writes, "Dear Rich, with his knee acting up at various points this year and the fact that he is going to go into February playing meaningful football, is Jay Ajayi a candidate to get overdrafted next season?" Thanks for the email, Don in Panama City, Florida. Rich, this is an interesting conversation because Ajayi's really, really looked good the last few weeks of the regular season. During the playoffs, he's looked very, very good as well. But you think with this extra workload, is that going to cause any potential knee issues that you would actually maybe downgrade him in drafts a little bit next season?
Well, first off, let me say this. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! Now they got that out of the way.
That's right.
Now I get that out of the way. What's going to happen is it's like what happens with every time. Say a guy, he goes off in the Super Bowl. He goes off for a 120 and a touchdown, and catches 3 or 4 balls. People will overdraft him next year. But, if he doesn't do much, then he may be underdrafted next year. The Eagles got the guy for a song. He's a pro. The guy's a pro. The only problem is he does fumble. That's his only problem. He's got to work on that. But with the knee injury, you couldn't really tell if so much time in between. So you really can't say much. But, I do like Ajayi.
Yeah, Ajayi's really come on this year, and granted, he will be playing into February, but he doesn't have to really go into training camp until July and August as well, so he will have some time to rest those knees. Jim in Albany, Georgia, he writes, do you view the performances of Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Martavis Bryant in 2017 as repeatable for 2018, or do you think one of those guys will have drastically different fantasy outputs than they did this year? Congrats and thank you. And thank you, Jim, for the email. Appreciate it. So the triumvirate for the Pittsburgh receivers, it looks like it's going to be Brown, Smith, Schuster, and Bryant right now. Do you see similar seasons for them next year, Rich, or does maybe Smith-Schuster take a big leap forward and Bryant just really falls off the face of the earth? Or does Antonio Brown start showing his age? How do you view these Pittsburgh receivers for 2018?
Well, great receiving corpse there. Brown, he's definitely, to me, he's the best receiver in football. So I don't see him dropping off at all. Juju Smith-Schuster, incredible talent. What's he, like 20 years old? He just got his driver's license. Yep. I see he's the clear number 2 on that team. But here's what I do that I've learned, and you always hear about handcuffing, and it usually only applies to running backs. But if you're smart, if you're taking one of these guys with a high pick, then you get Bryant later, just in case of an injury. Bryant as a number 2 is going to put up big numbers. So that's what I do. Usually, if I grab a wide receiver really high, and the player's got to have proven track record for me to take the third receiver on the team, I will take a third receiver late.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense as far as how you can handcuff these guys and not only protect yourself for being still having that dominant receiver core if an injury were to happen, but you can actually still remain pretty awesome at receiver if that were to happen. Rich, looking ahead to 2018, as we've been doing for the majority of this show, who's a guy that you'll actually probably be staying away from in the first few rounds, and a guy that you think might be flying under the radar in the mid-rounds next season that, it could be one of those high-variant players that could mean all the difference between winning a championship and not winning one next season?
Okay, as far as players I'm going to stay away from, I probably stay away from, usually it's older players I stay away from, coming on the ends of their careers. And Jordy Nelson, I see him taking a big drop down. A lot of people were picking him at the end of the first, beginning of the second. I see him down. Everybody sees Murray going down. But Shady McCoy, I thought the next year is going to be tough for him, even without the injury to their center. He's done for the year. So that's one. And as far as other ones, Bryant on the Cowboys looks slow and no separation. And I'm sure drafters won't be picking him in the second round anymore. He's done with that. He'll be a 6th rounder or something like that, I would figure. As far as the guys I might be able to grab, it's the same thing that I went back. You want younger guys with the proven past. So some guys have down seasons, and a lot of times what happens is somebody gets hurt in the middle of the season and they miss 3 or 4 games, and people don't factor that in when they look at the stats. They just see the final that he had 997 yards rushing, when if he played the whole year, he would have had 1,200. So there's guys like that out there. And I think David Johnson, although it's not your middle round like you were saying, I think, it's still first round. You might be able to get David Johnson as a 7th pick. Or Evans, instead of going like 7, 8 like he did this year, he might go mid-late second. He might be your a good push in the second. But middle round picks, I'd be looking at guys like Carlos Hyde, who had a major upgrade in quarterback. Maybe a guy like Mixon, who is expected to do more this year, but had a lot of competition, so he didn't get the carries till later. Injured guy Thompson on Washington looked fantastic. I know that I know he's never going to be a workhorse, but he does a lot with the catches and carries he gets.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay a workhorse tag for him either. He certainly helped a lot of people while he was healthy this year as a top 15 running back. Carlos Hyde, we'll see if he ends up with the Niners. That's certainly looking like an offense on the rise as well. And Mixon, I think, is a guy that's going to slip in drafts because people were burned a little bit by him this year, and they might let him slip next year. Totally with you on McCoy not being the greatest in the world next year. I don't think he's going to go in the first round. They're getting a new offensive coordinator in there, probably a new quarterback as well. Loses, like as you said, his starting center had to retire today. So a lot of things not working in Shady McCoy's favor. There is a lot of things working in Rich Mallon's favor this year, though. $11,000 for fourth place. I know that your total prizes was significantly higher than that for some of the other leagues that you had cashed in as well. But as far as your fantasy winnings this year, Rich, do you have any big plans for the money, or is it going to be reinvesting, or what do you envision yourself spending the money on if you haven't already spent it?
No, my daughter's getting married, so a big chunk of that will be going to Katie and Jeff. Yeah. My daughter Katie is going to be marrying Jeff, so we'll take care of them. I did before the season ended. I got myself a 65-inch M Series TV so I could watch the games. But the problem I had was I looked at the measurements wrong. Horrible thing to do. And my entertainment center don't fit it. So I have it rigged up a little bit. It look if you don't go too close, you don't know it's a problem. But I will be getting a new entertainment system to change that out. And my wife, who runs the eBay business, Mallon, she's the boss, and she wants to go on a cruise. So we'll probably use some of that for a cruise.
Yeah, well, good for you making your wife happy. I know that as a fellow married individual, it is what my life revolves around sometimes. So certainly awesome that we got to pick your brain tonight, Rich. I want to thank you for joining the show. Dave Gerzak is actually going to be on his way in here shortly. But seriously, thank you so much for coming on. Good luck. Congrats in 2017. Good luck in all those 2018 leagues as well. And who knows, maybe we'll end up talking to you again on this show, congratulating you on an even bigger win. So this was a treat tonight. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you. And when you go, just remember it's squatching and it's not squat cobbler. So if you come and visit, squatch.
That's right. I will never get those mixed up. Be good, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, later.
Rich Mallon, the fourth place finisher in the Football Guys Players Championship, joining the program tonight. And I want to welcome into the studio here, fresh off a jet-setting tour of the left coast of the country, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak, back in the studio tonight. Dave, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Oh, this is my two favorite people in the world, me and you, on the show tonight.
It really
so
was
great.
Was the left coast out there?
Yeah.
All the lefties were out there.
Oh yeah. So I was gonna let's get into it, but maybe I don't want to get into it now. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was great.
I heard former co-host of the show, Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship Commissioner Farrell Elliott was out there. You got to hang out with him?
I did not.
Oh, you did not? Did you see him?
Nope.
All right, so he was not out there.
He was leaving, and I was coming. He was going to the Senior Bowl, actually, being an agent and everything. He had to leave. He had a pretty early flight, and I got in late, so it didn't work out.
Too bad.
But I'll be seeing him in a few weeks, probably.
In a few weeks at?
A different trade show.
Trade show in Vegas. Okay, perfect. So any any juicy stuff to report from the FSTA? Do you see any familiar faces there that the show would care about, or is it just all the muckety mucks that no one really?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was all the same people.
Too bad.
There's a lot of talk. There was actually a cryptocurrency session that Alex and I wanted to see just because Alex knows nothing about it.
He knows nothing about crypto?
No, nothing.
Wow.
And then we were talking to Joel Bryant, name drop.
Sure.
We were talking to him, and then we missed it. So we still don't. He doesn't know anything about it.
Still doesn't know anything.
I know
about
that
crypto.
there's Bitcoin, and I should have put some money into Ripple, and that's about it. There was some talk with the legislative stuff that's going on. There's a lot of states that are picking up right now again.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of laws will be getting passed this
Really?
Yeah.
It'll be a big year for fantasy regulation. We'll have to see what
for better or for worse
happens there.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the other thing. Is actually there's a Supreme Court decision coming up, the PASPA thing they're ruling
Yeah.
to overturn that. So that was the buzz of the show as well.
Is that bad for us, for the FFPC, for people who?
I don't think so.
Or is it more of a sports betting thing?
It's more of a sports betting thing, and that's a lot of people talk about gaming and getting into that. But I mean, that's a whole you talk about regulation. That's like on a whole other level.
Right.
And so if that got overturned, then you have to go state by state, and even then, who knows?
Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't see that. I think really we are more of a hobbyist type of thing. I think it might impact DFS more so than it would impact us.
Well,
maybe positively. Who knows?
We'll keep you posted as much as you need to know, because God knows there's not much that you need to know or want to know when it comes to this kind of stuff.
No doubt.
I want to thank Football Guys, RotoPass, RotoWorld, and Rob for tonight's rundown. Ben Roethlisberger has reportedly informed teammates, this according to Marquise Pouncey today, he would like to play not 1, not 2, but 3 more years in the NFL, thanks to the report from Ed Bichette from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Roethlisberger had previously suggested that retirement was close during the offseason and even talking about it during the regular season. However, the Steelers fired noted Roethlisberger tangler Todd Haley and hired, I believe his name is Randy Fichtner, the quarterbacks coach for Pittsburgh, who I guess Roethlisberger really, really likes. So this is good news for, of course, the only league we care about on this show, the Blake Harrington Dynasty League, as I will not have to get a backup quarterback until Roethlisberger's bye week. And we'll roll with him, which is great. But this is good news really for the Pittsburgh offense in general, Dave. It's good for Brown, Smith-Schuster, Martavis Bryant as long as he's there, Le'Veon Bell as long as he's there. But this is a team that we had talked about as far as dynasty purposes go. You had to be careful if you were looking to acquire Brown or Smith-Schuster, because it could have been, who's their backup right now? Landry Jones? It would have been a massive step down. Yeah, and now we don't have to worry about it.
Now, for a while, at least, you get some certainty. He pulled the anti-FAR, so that was nice that he's actually saying he wants to keep playing.
Yeah.
Instead of perpetually threatening to retire.
He should perpetually threaten to never retire.
Yeah.
Like, Ben, any talk about, no, I'm never retiring.
Well, when you're throwing for 500 yards late in the season or whatever it was for something, I mean, you're playing at the top level of the game. You really shouldn't be
beating the top, or not beating, but crushing the top secondary in the league.
Right.
And,
he is still a very, very, very good quarterback.
Yeah. And he's still cooking along. Vikings offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur was officially hired as the new head coach of the New York Football Giants on Monday, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. This was not really much of a secret. This seemed to be the way that all the reports were leaning towards saying that the Giants were going to hire Shurmur. He did a great job this year, got a lot out of Sam Bradford, even more out of Case Keenum, and Eli Manning. Pat Shurmur said today that he views as maybe having 2 or 3 years left in him.
Oh, God. You get a retread name, Shurmur. I know it's not Fritz Shurmur, but the last name is a retread for me.
I believe it is his son, Pat Shurmur.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nepotism.
I'm very unexcited about that. I mean, Eli Manning-led offense, blah.
Yeah.
Although they will be cheap, right? That's the other side. Is you're going to get value with not Eli per se, but that offense.
Oh, okay, well, that's what I was going to say. Not Odell Beckham, because he's still going in the first. Well, I'll walk that back.
Later, my friend.
You think he goes in the second round this year?
It's possible. I haven't really looked at all.
I think he might go in the second round this year. Coming off of an ACL injury, the Giants have failed to extend him. That's got to be a bit of a red flag too. Maybe they know something we don't.
And his hair.
That's
always an issue.
That's less on my red flag list. That's more of a pinkish flag.
Interesting color.
Yeah. Just looking for a joke there, and you made it for me. Thank you. No, but you look at the rest of this Giants offense, outside of Evan Ingram and Beckham, I'm not really excited about. Like Sterling Shepard even, I'm just kind of like, wait, whatever. But
I think
Shepard, and you could probably get him cheap, I would imagine.
I think so. I like Ingram a lot.
And the running game still is non-existent. Maybe they take Saquon Barkley at the 102.
That's possible. Have people been talking about that?
I've heard there's some buzz on the Tweeter about Barkley maybe going at the 102. To the Giants.
They were finally alleviate. I mean, their running game has been just terrible for years.
Since Tiki Barber, maybe? Was there a good Giants running back since Tiki Barber?
None that I can think of offhand.
Yeah, I can't either. Ron Dane. Ron Dane's probably been the second best running back the Giants have had in the last 10 years.
Tiki could probably still get like 1,000 yards if he came back right now.
Probably could. The reason I brought up the Shurmur thing is this is a very uninspiring hire for you, and unless you're getting the Giants cheap, they're not players really to be targeting at this point, based on Shurmur.
There's only 30 some teams in the NFL, whatever. So you got to kind of don't want to cross them off yet.
Yeah. The Seattle Seahawks officially hired offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer.
Oh, another retread.
Yeah, and offensive line coach Mike Solari on Tuesday. The Seahawks.
And don't forget Ken Norton Jr., another retread.
Yeah, as the new defensive coordinator, Chris Richard and Michael Barrow let go from that Seahawks defense. This is reporting done by Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network. This is not very good news if you want to be in the, as Farrell would say, if you want to be in the Seattle fantasy business. Russell Wilson is going to be a good quarterback regardless.
Yeah, I mean, even if Schottenheimer's offense is no good, Wilson will just do whatever he has to do.
Running game is not going to be great.
We don't know. We have no idea who's going to be the running back. There could be like 6. Seriously, how many options are there? We have Rawls, Chris Carson,
J.D. McKissick.
Oh,
I'm sorry, is he a receiver?
He still is an FFC. Give it 2 weeks. Once we come over 2018. Lacey's probably gone or whatever. Who knows? Yeah. And then maybe I'm sure they'll draft somebody else. But it's just like there's such a cluster there at running back. It seemingly always is once Winslow.
I've seen Darius Yice mocked to the Seahawks in the first round. They got to fix that old line too.
So how is it really?
Geis. Really pronounced Geis. Jimmy Graham's also a free agent too, by the way. And
it's a free agent. Huh?
And
they can't even franchise him?
I don't believe they could franchise him. So it'll be Baldwin, and this is the other interesting thing in the Carrington Dynasty League. I have Richardson and Lockett, and I kind of want to hang on to him just to see what happens because Baldwin's getting up there in age too. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore. So we'll see what happens with that. But Schottenheimer is a guy that everywhere he's gone, he has left a wake of poor play and or mediocrity. Like he's never really nailed it, hit it out of the park. So I really didn't understand. This might have been a case of just shaking things up to shake things up. And I don't know if Seattle is better off because of it.
Well, the Seahawks, they're really excited about the new coordinator.
Yeah, well, Pete Carroll's really excited about,
He's chomping on a lot of gum right now. I'm not really like that.
He's excited when he just opens a piece of gum. Like, oh, this is just tremendous. There was an episode, and nobody's going to care about this, but I'm going to bring it up. There's an episode of Friends. I was never a huge Friends fan, but my wife was, so I ended up watching a lot of episodes. And there was an episode where Alec Baldwin played a character who was the boyfriend of Lisa Kudrow's character on the show, Phoebe.
Okay.
And he was just this uber super positive person. Like
Alec Baldwin?
Yes, just teeming with positivity. They were in. This is just an example of it. They were in line at a buffet at a wedding, and that you have those plate things where you push it. You take one out and more is pop up. It's like a plate loader type thing.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Where you don't push it down. You take a plate out and then the stack rises.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay, I know what you mean.
So he was like pushing down on it. And he's like, what a tremendous achievement in buffet technology, or whatever. It's just like that. Just super excited about. That's how Pete Carroll lives his life. Just really. I can't believe how old that guy is, and he's just still teeming with enthusiasm and excitement.
Yeah, he looks young still.
He does look young. It's that West Coast, man. Living on the West Coast, eating all that fish.
Yeah, fish. He probably was surfing in the Seattle 50-degree water.
The coffee, that's probably retarding the aging process for him a little bit there in Seattle. The rain.
Metabolism.
Again, that's the other thing. The rain is supposed to depress you. It's like has the opposite effect of Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
All that rain in Seattle.
He has a solarium or something with artificial light in his house.
Who knows? We'll get Neil deGrasse Tyson on that and help us figure that out. Derek Carr admitted that a back injury that he suffered in Week 4 did, in fact, impact his play throughout the course of the season. He says he doesn't talk about injuries during the season, but since it's after the year, the back, it bothered me a lot. This is Scott Bair, and I'm paraphrasing what Derek Carr said. Scott Bair from CSNBayArea.com had this report.
I heard a different rumor, actually.
Okay, let's hear this.
I heard these brands of mascara and eyeliner.
I knew I was teeing you up, and it's like one of those things when like a pitcher grooves a fastball right over the middle part of the plate, and as soon as the ball leaves his fingers, he's like, oh man, I left it hanging.
His deal with L'Oreal ended, and he couldn't find a sponsor.
All kidding aside, this is good news.
I think so too.
For the rate, this is good news for Crabtree. I don't know what Amari Cooper's deal was. But, the fact that they get John Gruden in there and Derek Carr saying, like, look, I hope Gruden is tough on me. I want him to make me the best quarterback I can be. I don't know. Like, I think Crabtree's going to go cheaper in drafts this year than a lot of people think, and Cooper definitely will. It's just me a question of if I want to get on board with that. I still don't know what happened last year. Can Amari Cooper come out and say, my ankle was hanging by one tendon for basically the entire season? I feel so much more comfortable about drafting him next year if that was the case, because we didn't really get an explanation. And I know he was battling some stuff with his ankle, and he came back from that ankle injury, and then he hurt it again right away on that primetime game where he was actually having a somewhat decent game and never came back to it. So this is good news for Derek Carr. It's good news for Crabtree. It's certainly not bad for Cooper. I just am not sure how I feel about Cooper yet.
Yeah, I don't think I'm trying to – I traded away Cooper in the leagues that I had him in, and I don't think I'm trying to get him back. I'm actually kind of interested in Derek Carr. He's 26 years old. He's pretty young. And this is kind of – this is the year when he should have kind of done an Aaron Rodgers-type breakout. And because of the injury, that affected him. You have Gruden. I actually respect Gruden's game. In spite, I hate him as an announcer.
Right.
Hate
his personality. Love his chops.
He's douchey.
Coaching chops.
Anyway, he also broke a world record today. For the fastest person ever to open 5 pinatas at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. Speaking of USA Today, for the win, had that coverage there, I see.
So
breaking, that's hard sports journalism.
Exactly.
Right there.
That whole article is quite great.
Yeah.
I would think how much do you think he costs? I bet you could maybe get him even for like a 2018 third.
Oh, Derek Carr?
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely. Well,
a 2018 second for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the leagues that I play in, quarterbacks are, I don't want to say a dime a dozen, but they're pretty darn close. So if somebody had Derek Carr and 2 other quality quarterbacks, if to like the 211, you're probably getting Derek Carr if you have some needed quarterback.
Yeah.
So I might actually take a look at him. And you never know. He could be. I mean, if Cooper comes back, Crabtree's still there, and with Gruden, he could be a top 6, top 7 quarterback. It's totally possible. And for the next 10 years.
Right. Exactly. I have 2 third-round picks in Carrington rookie draft this year, and I would gladly give either of them, dare I say, both of them up for Derek Carr right now, since I only have Roethlisberger at quarterback. I'm on board. The Cardinals reported this week that David Johnson had the wrist injury, is back at full strength. Very good to hear on that end. However, no Bruce Arians. They got a new coach, Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator from Carolina, will be the coach there. Maybe no Carson Palmer. I think that's official, right? Carson Palmer announced his retirement. He's gone. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, because the stock market was up this year. He had so much money.
Right,
he was
exactly.
up 30%.
I don't think Arizona has any quarterbacks under contract. We don't know if Fitz is coming back. Dave, is David Johnson a first-round pick for you right now?
Oh, it's pretty dicey. I probably would. Yeah, I would take him in the first round. I wouldn't take him early.
I think I would too. However, there's so many other guys I'd rather have in the first round, even just at running back. Hold on. I'll say this.
Sure.
At receiver, I definitely want Brown and Hopkins over David Johnson. Okay.
Sure. That's fine.
I definitely want Gurley, Bell, and Kamara over David Johnson next year.
Really?
So that's 5 players right there.
Zeke? Elliott?
Yes, I know. Thank you for clarifying. I don't know. There it gets close. Then I might take David Johnson. I don't know, man. It's not like the Cowboys' offense is going to be amazing next year.
They'll be fine. Their offensive line's great.
Yeah.
Elliott was crushing it. Keep in mind that David Johnson scored in excess of 400 points the prior year. I'm only advocating that. I'm just saying that from a redraft perspective, even given all those things going on,
right?
He still is a pretty darn good multi-purpose 3-down back, and they're so rare in the NFL. And it was a wrist issue. It wasn't an ACL, it wasn't a knee or anything, a leg or ligaments or anything like that. It's a wrist. I mean, I think he'll be pretty reasonably priced. I mean, once we see what happens this offseason, things will get more clear. But I'm actually kind of possibly buying him.
You're drafting right.
I have the right to change on that.
Right. You're drafting right now, and you narrow it down to, okay, when it comes to be my pick, I'm either taking David Johnson or Ezekiel Elliott. They're both there. Which one are you taking?
If it's right now, I'm taking probably Elliott.
I think I would too.
You got the certainty there.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to some emails here before we get out of here. First one's from Nick in Queens, New York. Hey, guys, what do you guys think the Bengals offense will look like next year if they do move on from both Eifert and Hill? Thanks so much. Thank you for the email, Nick in Queens. I'm going to be honest with you. It's probably going to look a lot like the offense this year. Because Eifert he played for a few weeks and then he got hurt. Jeremy Hill was a non-factor this season, and even when he was a non-factor when he played, and then he got IR'd. this is an offense that's going to feature A.J. Green. It's going to feature Joe Mixon going forward. Giovanni Bernard looked very, very good. I think they need to shore up that offensive line. And do you think John Ross is going to be a bust right now?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. And
if I could get literally anything for John Ross,
you would give up. What about Tyler Boyd? Because he kind of came on the last couple of weeks of the season. This is a guy who's like, wasn't he a second-round pick?
Yeah, he was a second-round pick. Yeah, he was. His people were concerned about his speed wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
But he had good hands. He's some level of pedigree. I think I would definitely rather have Boyd than Ross. Ross, I mean, if they're talking about switching positions, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm cutting bait as soon as I can. If anyone's willing to trade for him, ditch him.
Okay. Let's talk about what Will in Maple Shade, New Jersey has to say. What's up, Balky and Dizzle? What are your thoughts on Randy Fichtner? I knew it was Randy Fichtner. And the impact he's going to have on the Steelers replacing Todd Haley as the OC. Thanks for the email, Will in Maple Shade, New Jersey. When Haley was being talked about being let go, Ben Roethlisberger said, I think as little change as possible would be the best. Okay?
Sure.
So then they lose Haley, who, again, we've heard reports of these two not really meshing together well, and that Fichtner was actually the liaison between the two. So now you hire Fichtner as the offensive coordinator. Yeah, I mean, this is all good. This is all good things.
Yeah, and continuity is what you need.
What's the percentage chance that Le'Veon Bell is not a Steeler next year?
2? 10?
I was going to say 10. I think it's a little bit higher than 2. But, Pittsburgh is the type of organization that, with this being such a deep running back class and them not wanting to pay Le'Veon Bell, I could see them just saying, you know what, to hell with you. And then they take somebody, like the guy from USC in the second round, Ronald Jones. I think that's his name, Ron Jones.
They could do that. That would be a mistake, though, in my opinion. I mean, the salary cap keeps on going up and up and up. They have enough money to pay him. Give me a break.
Yeah. Okay.
They really do. I mean, these teams.
I feel like if you haven't paid a running back who's coming into his age 26 season already, what's the deal with him? You obviously have some sort of hang up. Well, the same thing I brought up with Beckham.
He's had a few injury issues. He's been hothead, here and there. That doesn't go well with that organization. It's just not what they want to be about.
So now they could move on from him.
They could move on from him. He is a superstar, fantastic, awesome, amazing running back with unbeatable vision. I mean, no one has more patience than Le'Veon Bell.
To a fault.
To no one's fault. There is no fault. It's faultless.
I don't know. There's sometimes I feel like he
just could sit there for like 6 seconds, and all of a sudden he bursts and gets 20 yards.
Yeah, it doesn't always work that way, but yes, I would agree with you there. As far as the offensive coordinator switch goes, this is a good thing, and it's all great for everybody who is wearing a Steelers jersey next year.
Yeah, the play calling will even be the same. You know what I mean? They'll probably.
I hope not, because it was pretty bad in that Jacksonville.
I'm talking about the verbiage. I mean, I'm just saying, like the plays themselves, let's call the same plays.
John in Framingham, Massachusetts, are you guys looking to sell low on any of the Falcons skill guys after their over-regression to the mean this past season under Steve Sarkisian, who is coming back in 2018 as their offensive coordinator?
More nepotism.
Go Pats! That's John in Framingham, Massachusetts. How is that nepotism?
Sarkisian?
Yeah.
Didn't he have an older person that was, or is he the original?
No, I only know one Sarkisian.
Well, then maybe I'm wrong.
What's funny is Steve Sarkisian was the Alabama offensive coordinator and then became the Falcons offensive coordinator. Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator for Alabama this past year, and they won the national title. And now he is the Bills offensive coordinator. So apparently Nick Saban not only churning out NFL prospects, churning out NFL offensive coordinators down there in Alabama as well.
Huh.
What were you looking up?
Oh,
I thought it had something to do with this. Okay. So you look at the Falcons this past year. We knew that they weren't going to be the world beaters that they were last season. And I think Julio Jones still had a great year. Devontae Freeman, I think you could chalk up to injury a little bit. I thought Tevin Coleman had a real nice season. Matt Ryan, from a real fantasy standpoint, or real football standpoint, wasn't great. I thought fantasy-wise, he wasn't terrible. I thought he was all right. I mean, nobody's drafting him in like the 4th round or anything like that. So I'm not really looking to sell low on any of these guys. I don't know how low I'd be selling on them, really, as far as dynasty goes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So
I get cheap offers for Devonta Freeman, and I don't take them ever. What I would consider cheap.
Like, okay, give us an example.
Well, I mean, there was one
like
embarrassing, like Devontae Parker, that was...
For Devontae Freeman?
Yeah.
Oof,
good.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
What was the other thing I was going to say about the Falcons here?
Hey, Julio actually.
Julio.
Started in the red zone a couple times late in the season.
That's what I want to talk to you about. If you own him in Dynasty, he's a hold right now, right? You're not looking to move him. You're not looking to acquire him.
I'm as much as I brag about Julio, I'll probably ride him out. Phrasing. I will let him ride himself off into the sunset on my Dynasty teams forever.
All right.
I'm not going to probably get rid of him. Because no one knows.
You own him in a lot of Dynasty
leagues? Just one. Okay. I probably wouldn't sell him.
Yeah. Bill in Berea, Ohio. If both of these free agents get franchise tag, which one do you like better for next season? Allen Robinson or Sammy Watkins? Thanks for the email, Bill. And I'm assuming Robinson, obviously if they get tagged, they're staying with these teams. We're not assuming a tag and sign for this question. Robinson on the Jags, Watkins on the Rams. Who do you like better?
I will go with the player that is the number one receiver.
Okay, so Robinson.
The number one receiver on his own team. And Cooper Kupp is not an option.
Yeah.
And he's the number one on
the
Rams.
Well, he can't be franchise tagged yet.
He's the number one on the Rams. Sammy Watkins, he's this mystery to me. Again, I don't own him anywhere because I've dealt him away, and I'm not going to be buying him back. I had pretty high hopes for him. He's had injury issues, and now he just doesn't perform. If you're going to be a good football player, you got to play good. He's not a good football player.
Right. Allen Robinson is probably what do you think, a third-round pick next season in redraft? That's what I would project him for. In this scenario, if he's tagged.
I maybe would say a tad lower.
Okay, like maybe early fourth, mid-fourth.
That's my opinion. But the team itself is talking up Allen Robinson. Like they're talking about getting rid of Marquise Lee. Right. Cole and Westbrook both played well in Robinson's absence.
Well, and they wouldn't be getting. That's the guy they could be getting. Yeah.
Well, but they can cut Burns. They can get rid of Marquise Lee. He's a free agent as well.
Yeah, they just wouldn't sign him.
Yeah, and so then you have Cole, Westbrook, Allen Robinson. So you have a number one receiver and then these two burners. That's perfect. Yeah. What else do you need? A good tight end.
If only they had a good running game to supplant that.
Well, most importantly, they have Blake Bortles.
As of right now.
Who's awesome.
Yeah, he certainly has been great. What I was going to say about we talk about the ADP. You're saying Robinson 4th round. I'm saying 3rd round. Sammy Watkins 8th round.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, like, you want to talk draft value? That's a completely different discussion. But I'm clearly taking Robinson over Watkins next year.
Right now, if I was drafting, I'm taking Kupp over Watkins. If I was choosing between the two.
Yeah, it'd be stupid not to, wouldn't it? What about Robert Woods? Because he was great this season too.
Yeah, he was coming around for sure. I don't like Robert Woods all that much.
You could make the case that he might even be the number one over Cooper Kupp.
One could make that case, sure.
I'll have to research that with my.
Well, that's the thing. Goff is good, but you can't have 3 productive wide receivers. You really can't. So I just don't think Watkins, because those other guys.
And Gurley, when Gurley's catching 70, 80 balls too.
So what option? What option are you?
Yeah.
Fournette's not a pass catcher, so you're
right.
not. I mean, much lesser than Gurley.
Yeah. So. No, I get it. Final email tonight, Bobby in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, high stakes henchman. I'm looking to start drafting in February for the first time with you this year, and I'm curious as to which Packers running back you would target. Ty Montgomery, Jamal Williams, or Aaron Jones. Thanks for the email, Bobby. First question I have for you, Dave, is do you think these are the 3 running backs Green Bay goes to camp with next season? Montgomery, Williams, and Jones. Or do you think they add somebody in the draft? Not asking specifics.
Well, since it's weird because now they have a new scouting team drafting.
Right.
So I feel like there's a chance, even though they spent so much draft capital on Williams and Jones.
I think they might sink some more.
I think there's a shot, but I don't think they're going to spend a first-round pick on it.
Next question. What's Ty Montgomery's position going to be this coming season? Do you think he sticks at running back for the Packers, or are they moving back to receiver? Because
I think he stays at running back.
He took some bad shots, and he missed a lot of time last year. I don't know if that was a freak thing or not. But the running back for me to target on this team, Jamal Williams, talking about he wants to, and this is something all running backs should be saying if they're not saying, and it might just be fluff, but he wants to be more. He wants to be have more speed next year, more agile, maybe a little bit more of a shiftier player than he was this past season. So these are all good things with Williams. I don't think Aaron Jones has what it takes to be out there as much as Williams. Remember, Williams is such a fantastic pass blocker, and we saw him catch a lot of passes this year too. I mean, he looked really, really good. He's the type of guy that Green Bay could really ride the next 3 or 4 years with Aaron Rodgers and have a very, very dominant offense.
I personally, I I don't know if I can get on board with him. He averaged 3.6 yards per carry. So did Ty Montgomery, and Aaron Jones averaged 5.5. And at a certain point, that number really matters.
Yeah.
So I know that. I don't think Jamal Williams is an NFL caliber athlete at running back. I don't think he's good enough as an athlete to be starting running back material. I think the team made a big mistake by drafting him in the first place.
Okay. So
Jones actually does have the explosiveness. I just don't know if they're going to give him the opportunity. I mean, not really sure as what his injury is necessarily. What was it like?
I thought he had a knee injury that he missed 3 or 4 weeks with, like a PCL or something like that.
Yeah, so something like insanely serious.
No, I mean, he came back. He didn't end the season on injured reserve like Ty Montgomery did.
Yeah, he's not as good of a pass catching back. So at that point, then if I guess I'm really not that excited about the Packers run game right now because you just have no idea. And even going forward, maybe we take a shot at Aaron Jones. That's just my guess.
Since a lot of people are on Jamal Williams, does that make Aaron Jones the value for you right now?
He will be cheaper at least. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So take a stab. You're going to take a stab. It's Aaron Jones.
And Montgomery has a whole body of work averaging 3.6 yards a carry, which sucks.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about Ty Montgomery at all heading into last season.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of, the way I remember it was, we didn't really know what the Packers' plans were going to be as far as, they were saying that Montgomery was the guy, but, you say a guy is the guy and then it's different.
They wanted him to be.
They wanted him to be. I mean, he just wasn't. They wanted him to be, and then what did they do, Dave? They sunk 3 draft picks into running backs.
Right.
So I think the handwriting was on the wall there. It's like you can't really trust that guy's going to be the guy when you're,
But they didn't spend what picks were?
It was
third or fifth?
Jamal Williams was a 3rd round. Aaron Jones, I believe, was a 4th, and then Devontae Mays was a 6th.
Oh yeah, wow.
That's what it was. It was Williams was 3, Jones was 4. Well, you made the assertion or assumption that you thought they were deciding between Williams and Jones in the 3rd round, and they ended up taking Williams. And then when they were up in the 4th round, they didn't trade up for Jones. Like, hey, Jones is still there. Yeah, let's grab him too.
Oh, we had him right next to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course you did.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for our show this week. I want to thank Rich Mallon, FFPC, Dave Gerzak, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you for joining the program this week. We have a special Thursday night show next week. No show on Friday. We will have a Thursday night show at 10/9 Central, and it is a big one, ladies and gentlemen. 2017 Football Guys Players Championship, $250,000 champs Michael Abbott and Justin Smiley will be on the show this Thursday. Do not tune in on Friday. There is no show. It is Thursday night, 10/9 Central. Yes, Thursday. Welcome to the promo for that. So Thursday, 10/9 Central, we're going to have the FPC champs, Michael Abbott, Justin Smiley. Pick up some new dynasties. myffpc.com/dynasty today. Still plenty of good teams out there. I just saw another great one today. Follow the Twitter feed for more information on that. Twitter.com/FFPC. Your weekend starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. That was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Big dog stay on the court, blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. Where you get that from?
So the trip was good. To wrap things up, it was very beneficial and great.
Yeah, except for Leroy giving me 3 crappy basketball bets that I lost. Just kidding, buddy. You only went 1 and 2.
I was going to say the worst part for you, no Farrell time.
This kind of sucks.
So depressing. We missed you, Farrell.